Hi, and welcome to Rethinking Your Next Quarter Century. Before we get started, let me unpack this just a little bit further so that you understand where I came up with this idea and the title. And the primary reason that we call this Rethinking Your Next Quarter Century is because too many of our decisions have been made on short-term projections. When we think from quarter to look at profits and to say that this is our sign of real growth and progress, we completely miss the mark when it comes to planning for the long-term future. Successful companies that look far out into the future are the ones that are leading in their industry and dominating and disrupting most markets. One that particularly comes to mind is Amazon. Love them or hate them, they've done a great job of innovating and, of course, for many others, disrupting their markets. But their mission is clear. They want to sell everything to everyone, to everywhere. And Jeff Bezos made a famous statement in his interview with 60 Minutes that I think is really pertinent and important to this program, and that is that when he was asked to respond to the critique that his company puts small and family businesses in a position where they can't compete, his response was simple. Amazon's not happening to these companies, the future is. And this is the same perspective that we have to take as we start to look down the road for ourselves. So my encouragement as you go through this program is to be thinking in the long term so that you can make better decisions in the present. The goal here is to supply you with a foundation to start ensuring your future relevance and creating continuous growth. Now, this first process is about anticipating the future. It's great to sit back and talk about the future and how we can go out and we're going to create it and we're going to change the world. But when the rubber meets the road, many people don't have a real process that they can apply. So when you get started thinking about the future, the first thing that you need to be able to do, either as an individual or organization, is anticipate change so that you can identify disruption, you can identify new market opportunities. You look for areas where you can create products and services that match with your existing business model and easily transition into that to create new growth. The first part of that for every organization, though, is asking the tough and critical questions. Several of the organizations that I've worked with have started by saying, well, we need to have a better understanding of what the world may look like. And I said, yeah, you're absolutely right. But the first thing we have to do is identify a critical question that we need to have answered so that we can begin exploring the way that the world may shape up. And so the first process for you is to say, what are those critical questions that we need to know? And I'll give you an example. For many, the concern about artificial intelligence and robotics has become a big concern. How many businesses rely on human input where artificial intelligence is quickly creeping in and can certainly do the job for them? How might robotics, say, for example, impact the construction industry? As of the recording of this video, there is a robot right now that is building an entire bridge over in Holland. This is happening. This is not some possibility, it's happening. And it's doing it without human intervention. Organizations need to understand what is most critical to them in order to better understand where to start looking for and analyzing the external environment. So the first part of that is determining what your critical question is. Let me give you an example of how you might do that. First thing you want to say or look at is say, what existing trend, issue, potential event are we most concerned with? Maybe it is drones, maybe it's robotics. And let's say, for example, that your industry is the construction industry. A simple critical question may be, how might the surge of robotics and the utilization of robotics in the construction industry impact our business and the way that we serve our clients? Simple question. Now, we use this to direct our ability to start looking for valid points of information that inform us of what the world may look like. The way in which we do this is we start to scan the environment and the horizon. Now, some of you watching this may be familiar with these terms, but I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into them so you have a better understanding of how to quickly apply this to your organization. Scanning the environment is what most companies do. They look internally, they look at what's going on in their industry, they rely on industry experts, and these are all valid points of information and very important. Scanning the horizon, on the other hand, is looking at what may be coming down the road. What's taking place in other industries? What is on the fringe that might disrupt our industry? What should we be looking out for? When you start to think about your future relevance and continuous growth, you must be looking at both the environment and the horizon. What I want us to focus on is first looking at the horizon and saying, what's going on outside of our sphere that we need to consider, and how does that create a context that we need to place ourselves within? So the way in which you do that is you take your critical question and you simply start to search for the answers to those questions. Scanning is a simple process of taking in information and then categorizing it so that you can later make sense of it. Simple. So if it's robotics, if it's drones, if it's genetic modification, whatever it might be, start searching these things online. Enter keywords. Put the question in itself. Look for relevant points of information from trusted resources and begin to catalog it. It's that simple. We'll talk later about how to make sense of these things and make real connections so that you can better understand how the future may actually unfold. But the key to anticipating the future is first knowing what questions need to be answered, knowing how to find that information, and then looking at the potential implications that this information may have on the future as a whole. 1984, additive manufacturing was brought into the market. Now, this was used in the construction, engineering, design work. This was very specific to a certain industry. For those of you that do not know what additive manufacturing is, it's what many of you will know as 3D printing. Now, in 1984, if we had had the same conversation and looked at 3D printing and our ability to utilize this technology, despite the fact that it was being used in one industry, and said, how might this technology impact other facets of society? How might this impact our ability to, say, communicate with each other? How might this impact our ability to feed the homeless, or pick any possible situation? What new economic models may come out of this? What new economies may be growing out of this? What new markets may be created? Most aren't even going to consider even asking these questions. And the reason why is because we limit ourselves to the industries for which these technologies are originally created. The key here is that if we're really going to understand the impact that a technology or some new shift or something that's going on in society today is going to have on the future as a whole, we have to, one, look beyond the original intent for which it was created. And then two, look beyond the original audience for whom it was created. If we can do that, we can then begin to explore how this technology may be utilized, or these concepts, into different areas of our world. These are the three ways that you must begin to anticipate the future. This is critical for any organization to do so. So you start by asking critical questions. You know how to look for relevant information to answer those questions or to create new questions. And then you start to look at the potential implications that these trends, issues, or potential events may have on the future as a whole.